The British state must declare a national emergency with respect to illegal migration. For so long now, we've been hearing in the news about an attack, and then a few weeks later, another attack, and another attack, and another attack. And that is one of the main reasons that they must declare a national emergency. But it's not the only one, because I'm seeing a very worrying trend on the right of British politics where people are deciding that the state cannot and will not protect them. And so they've decided to take matters into their own hands, whatever that means. To me, that sounds absolutely terrifying. There is a big problem in this country and it requires a big solution. Let's get into it. I've got to be really careful with how I talk about the most recent case of this happening because it's an active investigation and court case, but also for the purposes of YouTube guidelines, right? But I'm pretty sure everyone has seen this. 3 people in London were attacked just a couple of days ago. Sadly, one man, an Englishman, Wayne Broadhurst, has lost his life. And an Afghan asylum seeker was subsequently arrested and charged for those crimes: murder and attempted murder. And look, Wayne Broadhurst was just a guy in his own neighborhood walking his dog. He probably had plans later that day. Maybe he was going to spend some time with his kids. I don't know, but that was it. Just like that. You know, he had plans for later that day. He was worried about bills he was going to pay. He had plans for the future, but no, that was it. His life is just gone just like that. And people no longer feel safe in this country. They truly do not feel safe. If you don't believe me, take a listen to this caller who called into Talk TV. Listen to the raw emotion and fear in her voice, because it is absolutely horrifying. People feel betrayed by the government.
Oh, I live in the borough right next to Hillingdon.
Yep.
And I moved into my house in 2019. My local shop, there's been 3 stabbings, 1 murder since then.
Wow.
My friend was murdered last year up on the high street. Girl I know was murdered in Southall Park. The government are failing us. I'm so scared for my children. I have a 22-year-old son and I'm begging him to move out of the country.
Oh my goodness, I feel for you.
What are these politicians doing to us? They're putting our children in so much danger. They're putting everyone in danger, and they're not doing nothing to help us.
And that's the thing a lot of us feel. You know, how many is too many?
They're pushing us to do something that we don't want to do. We are peaceful people. British people never vote against their government.
Yeah.
They're going to push us to it because they're not listening to us. Our friends, our family are dying. I had a cousin murdered 20 years ago who was stabbed to death and nothing has changed, Julia.
I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm sure I speak for everyone listening and watching right now. My heart goes out to you, and that's the reality.
I don't leave the house without a man.
You're that worried.
Well, everyone I know is getting stabbed. They're getting in parts. This is where I live, not where the politicians live.
Honestly, it's hard for me to listen to that clip because it's one of my own countrymen, or countrywomen in this case, clearly terrified to even leave their own home. And look, if it was just one case, I would say, look, this is overblown. 40,000 people have come here illegally. One bad incident. Let's not blow this out of proportion. Terrible incident. But there's no statistical pattern there. But it's not one case, is it? It's endless. It's an endless stream of cases. A few days ago, Deng Mojak was sentenced, I think, to 30 years or whatever for the brutal and completely unprovoked murder of Rhiannon Sky White. Yesterday, a case I hadn't even heard about in the news before, another guy was sentenced for the unprovoked murder of Govinda Jahal, a guy who was just walking into the bank. And that was it. His life was over. He was thinking about putting a check into the bank, probably. That's it. Life gone. Snubbed. Do you know what both of those cases had in common? It was an illegal migrant who did it to a citizen. What are we doing? What are we doing? We've just paid Harush Kabatu £500 to get out of the country. We've paid him money to get out of the country, even though he arrived here illegally and 8 days later committed sexual assault on one of our citizens. What are we doing? Why is the British state seemingly complicit or allowing this to happen to its own citizens? Why? What are we doing? Don't tell me there's no solution. Don't tell me the solutions are difficult, because they simply are not. And I'll talk about the solutions a little bit later on in this video, but we need to do something about this. The government needs to do something about this. I'm trying to stay calm in this video, but I'm really struggling because these are my people. This is what's happening in my country. And I'll say this, you cannot do this forever. You cannot subjugate a population forever, any population. You cannot subject them to terror and murder infinitely and just expect them to take it. Even the genteel English will not take this forever. And the English are a relatively peaceful people at home. I know everyone thinks about the British Empire and wars. All of that stuff is overseas, right? At home, we are peaceful. We've had one civil war in our 1,000-year history, and we did have the Peasants' Revolt, right? But for a 1,000-year-old nation, that's pretty impressive. And I'm pretty worried. I am genuinely getting pretty worried. I know a lot of people will have heard of Professor David Betts. He's the Professor of War Studies at King's College London with a specialty in civil war. And he's been warning for the last couple of years now, doing the podcast rounds, that this country, Britain, is in a pre-Civil War state. Now, I'm not one of those doom-mongers. I think the probability of a civil war in this country is actually relatively low, like 20% maybe, which is low in, raw percentage terms, but high when you think about how catastrophic it would be. But nonetheless, it's clear that there are these massive underlying tensions, and I'm starting to see signs that people on the British right are beginning to crack. I'm seeing signs that people are saying, you know what? The state isn't going to protect us. It's about time we did something. And that's fucking terrifying. How has it got to this state in Britain? I'll play you a clip, right? And, he put it online himself. He said it. He hasn't taken it down 24 hours later. So presumably he's happy with this being public information. Have a look at this.
Okay. No more protests. No more marches. No more stage. No more speakers. We need the English lads to make a point. So it's time to stop marching. It's time to stop protesting. And it's time that we take a leaf out of the book of our ancestors and our forefathers, and we do something to show them that we are not messing around anymore. No women, no children will be at this meet that we're going to call it. No vulnerable people, no disabled, just men. Enough is enough. Very, very soon that call is coming. And I hope that those that are fed up, those that are angry, those that are literally look at their lives and see their kids' futures whistling away in the wind because we're just sitting back and letting this happen, while an innocent man walking his dog is literally brutally murdered on the streets of Uxbridge, while our women are being, our children are being dead. Man the fuck up. It's fucking time.
Now, I don't know what Danny was referring to in that clip, but he does say no marches, no protests. And to me, that's pretty scary. And I just see this situation in this country where a lot of people feel like they've exhausted all of their opportunities, political, voting, marches, protests, and they feel threatened. When you have a large part of the population who feel both threatened and that there are no political solutions available to them, that is when very bad things can happen. And I do not want some kind of civil war to take place in this country. I don't want any kind of Northern Ireland style dissidency. I don't want a Bosnian war style situation. And I know a lot of people are going to be in the comments saying, oh, you're a coward. You're not going to fight for your country. Okay, look, I spent 8 years in the British Army. I was perfectly happy to fight for my country. It's not cowardice. I have traveled through the Balkans. I have seen the remnants of the Bosnian War. I have spoken to survivors. I have been to Srebrenica. I've been to the graveyards. I have seen what a civil war can do to a country. And a lot of you who want this to happen think that there's going to be some glorious English uprising, all of our enemies will be conquered, you will take power and you will decide the future of England and everything will be fantastic thereafter. It's not how it's going to look. The country will collapse, there will be massive amounts of casualties on all sides. Now, again, I fortunately don't think that a civil war is necessarily imminent, because I think there are two things that could keep a threatened population suppressed. One is authoritarianism, and we're seeing a lot of that rising quite rapidly. Digital ID, free speech crackdowns, protest crackdowns. And the other is a generally good economy where people have a reasonably comfy life, and so even though they feel threatened and aggrieved, they just want to get on with it. The problem is, no government can keep the economy good forever. That's actually what happened in Yugoslavia. Even after Tito died, the economy was good, everything stayed okay, economy collapsed, bad things happen. So whilst I don't see that being something imminent, I don't rule it out at all, for the future. And if you want more information about that, go and look at some Professor David Bett's podcast. He knows a lot more about this sort of stuff than me. But both of us know enough to know that it would be a very bad thing. And he's been trying to warn the government about this for a really long time. Look, what am I saying here? I'm saying the government needs to step in and needs to actually address the concerns of those people who feel threatened. On all sides. They do this all the time, by the way. Islamophobia laws, extra funding for synagogues and mosques. They do this extensively for one side, for everyone other than the English. But they never do it for the English. They never address the concerns of English people. And so what I'm saying they should do, and this is really kind of obvious, I think, is declare a national emergency, get additional powers, build rapid accommodation, just like they did with the Nightingale hospitals during the pandemic, and put the people who come here illegally into that accommodation, detain them, do not put them into people's communities. It is clearly not safe. It is clearly very, very dangerous. The dog's following me from a mile away, look. That to me is like an immediate first step that you could probably get done within the next 2 or 3 months. And then we can work after that towards other political solutions like returns agreements, deporting people, whatever. But the first thing that they need to do really is detain these people and get them out of communities. And I say this because there will be another attack. There'll be more and more attacks. And the feeling of being vulnerable that so many English people have is only going to increase. And with that, so does the danger of something really terrible happening. Before I go, there is one more thing that the British government could do today, right now, sitting in Parliament, to make us safer. It's something extremely obvious and something I've been calling for a long time. Legalise pepper spray. Allow citizens to own pepper spray for the purpose of self-defense. A lot of my American viewers will be watching this and thinking, what are you talking about? Yeah, pepper spray is illegal in this country. You are not allowed to own mace. It's an extremely effective self-defense tool because, it's highly irritant when you get sprayed by it. But ultimately, it's non-lethal. It doesn't do any lasting damage. Why are we not allowed to possess that in this country? Every citizen should have at least the most basic means of defending themselves. And that is the most basic means. Actually, quite effective. And there's no good reason that we're not allowed that. You can still say that if someone uses it inappropriately or irresponsibly, that they are liable to be taken to court. If you use it in a malicious way, then that's assault or grievous bodily harm or whatever. But to simply outlaw it when it does no permanent lasting damage to people is utterly ridiculous. It is to our shame. We don't live in that high trust society anymore. It is clear that women need pepper spray in this country, but actually it's increasingly clear that so do men. This is speculative, of course, but if Wayne Broadhurst had a little pocket with a can of pepper spray in it, maybe he could have intervened in what was going on there without losing his life. I don't know that, okay? Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I shouldn't speculate like that. But I think it's true. I think it's true, ultimately. And I'll say this as well. If the British government doesn't act to start keeping its citizens safe, people are going to start having a conversation about firearms. They're going to start having a conversation about rearming the population for the purposes of self-defense. Do I think personally that that is a good idea? I've got some mixed thoughts. Probably not. quite frankly. I think you would have to be extremely selective with who's able to have firearms, but then you're not really talking about a universal right to self-defense. But I know that I can operate firearms competently and safely, but do I trust the rest of the public to do so? No, not really. But all I'm saying is that's where the conversation is going to go, because people do feel threatened, they do feel vulnerable. So unless you want these conversations to start getting had, this to become a political talking point in Parliament, let's start acting, let's start doing things. Give people the most basic means to defend themselves. Give them pepper spray. Build rapid detention centres. Keep these people out of our communities. Very, very basic stuff. We're asking for the most basic protection from our government, and they are not providing it. And that's why people are starting to say, if you won't provide it, we'll have to take the matter into our own hands. Not a good situation. Nobody wants to be there. Anyway, I'll leave the video there. It's a bit more of a rambling video than I usually do. I'm a bit less prepared than usual. I'm just speaking from the heart about a few things that I see going on in the country. Not good. Thank you for watching. Please do leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in a future video. Thank you very much.